Welcome to Bird Recovery International, Saving the American Parrot. I'm Chris Biro, and in this program we're going on an adventurous journey exploring the history and the possible future of the American Parrot. If you like the video and want to see more of them, make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to hit the little bell button to receive updates, notifications whenever we upload new videos. All right, in today's program, we're going to be looking at an interview I did recently with Silvia Corbucci. She asked me a bunch of questions about free flight while I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where she brought me down to do a free flight training seminar. And we are looking at some of the basic concepts of free flying parrots in this interview. You actually get to see a little bit of that free flight seminar, just a little bit of the active follow-up that we did at a resort in the opening shots in this program. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot more about the trip to Brazil, visiting Iguazu Falls. We're going to talk about Parques dos Aves. We're going to talk about visiting the Lyris macaques. We've got a whole bunch of that we're going to do in the future. But today, we're looking at a general look at free-flying parrots in this interview. Silvia, where are we and what are we doing?
We are now in my house and we've been here for 20 days having lots of fun, doing lots of things. It's been quite a pleasure to have Chris here. So this is the point of this interview is really to get the first people that don't even know what free flight is connected to this subject, so it's very easy talking. Yes, basic talking. So what is free flight and why is it important to the birds?
Okay, well, free flight is flying the animal outside or giving him total control over where he's going, what he's doing, where we don't have some restraining device or restraining, like a cage or a leash or something like that on the animal. So the animal is allowed to move freely the way he would if he was in the wild. Now, of course, we do have some controls because we're going to train the animal to have some behaviors, and that, of course, is a key part of free flight. We're not just turning the birds loose and having them fly out the back door, and then all of a sudden they, fly out into the city or into the forest, and we never see them again. That's not free flight. That's not part of free flight.
Sure. So is it easy to practice or to train a bird to do free flight?
Okay, and yes, it is actually very easy if you understand a few basic concepts. And that's the kicker to this, is that a lot of people want to learn to do this on their own, and I understand that. And sometimes they'll fly one or two birds and then want to go out and teach other people how to do that. And the problem with that is that they don't necessarily understand some very important concepts, very simple concepts. They're not difficult to understand, but if you haven't been doing this a while, you're missing a broader perspective sometimes that is important to the community of free flyers and important to understanding the behavior of the animal. Not all behavior works the way we think it works. We've got lots of examples of how some of our common sense ideas about how behavior work are just plain wrong. And so understanding a few scientific principles that are important to understand how behavior works can make this a much more effective and much more successful process. It's actually very easy.
Sure.
It's
and you have to go through some few steps.
The actual process itself, when you understand these principles, is crazy easy.
But it's not something that we would instinctively imagine as...
Not all of it, no.
Oh, I'm gonna, like myself, I start flying bamboo. Oh, I can do that. And then I saw, after a few mistakes and a few things that I didn't know how to manage, that it was not about my idea, oh, let's do this and it's gonna go right. It doesn't. So if you don't know the concepts, you can really go wrong.
Yeah, and one of the things that happens is a lot of times you can get away with less than ideal, less than good training concepts and good training theory. The birds are very adaptive, and so a lot of times you can get away with doing it in a sloppy form, put it that way. But you don't always get away with that, and that's where the tragedies come in, and that's where we can, with proper training, we can help avoid some of those tragedies that otherwise happen because people think that they're getting away with, they think they're doing a great job when what actually is happening, they're getting lucky.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's,
I
that luck runs out.
I recognized when I was training bamboo that lucky was there, and if it wasn't, I would do something bad. So that's why I looked for Chris and went to do your course.
And after you did, you could
I
see
changed
that.
a lot of things, and Edith was fully trained on your methods. It was really surprising to see how fast she was a good flyer. Even before bamboo, she's younger than him. She started her training a lot later than him. She was older when she started training, but still, with the proper training, she got a better flyer, better than him. Now it's been many months they've been flying correctly, so now they're both better, very good flyers, but...
They're fantastic. They're doing a great job. You've done a really good job with them.
So, do you recommend free flight to all bird owners?
Yes and no. Yes and no. For anybody that's interested and willing to put the commitment into this, then absolutely yes. Although I will put a small caveat to that, saying that some personality types may not find this that much fun. Okay, this is a very dynamic process. It's a very think on your feet, problem solving on the go kind of a process. Some people don't like that kind of process in their world. They want everything to be structured. They want to plan everything out. They know exactly what they're going to do for every 10 minutes on their vacation. This is not likely to be fun for those kind of people. Okay, this is a very results-oriented, think on your feet, fly by the seat of your pants kind of behavior. That's what makes it so much fun for me, because I'm a very problem-solving kind of guy. I'm an engineering background, right? So this is like chess on steroids for me. I love that, but not everybody does. So that's kind of important to understanding who you are as a person. If you're a process-oriented type of person rather than a results-oriented kind of a person, or in other words, you enjoy making rules to run everything, this may not work so well, because things don't always go by the rules in this. These are little animals. They're not radio-controlled airplanes. They have a brain in their head, and they sometimes misuse it to our pain and agony sometimes. We're out searching for them. But that's also part of what makes it fun, in my mind, is overcoming those challenges.
So you really have to be able and even enjoy changing your plans to do something that maybe you didn't want to do in the first time.
But also at the same time, there's a level of wonder and excitement, and it's something you can't really describe to somebody. It's one of those things you kind of have to experience, and it's really been a joy for me, having been teaching people how to do this for over 10 years now, to watch some of my students get to have that experience, and you can see that they are enjoying this incredible experience that you can't describe. I've been doing it for 20 years, and I can't describe it to somebody, but I can see it when one of my students is appreciating this incredible experience.
Sharing the same feelings.
Yeah, it's that's very rewarding.
That's good. I agree. So, can any bird practice free flight?
Yes and no again. With enough training and effort, we could probably train every bird to be able to fly. The problem with that comes into the idea of how much energy and effort do we want to put into this, especially when we're talking about a brand new trainer who's never done this before. Okay, and so in my mind, taking the brand new bird trainer and putting him with the most difficult student possible is a bad idea. So not every bird, in my mind, is a good candidate from that perspective. And then there's also the issue of the species characteristics. Some species are going to be easier to work with than other species. African grays, for instance, are fairly independent-minded. They like to do everything on their terms, compared to a macaw, which is much more like a dog's personality, very accommodating and very social. Whereas the African gray is more like a cat. You know, you want the cat to sit on your lap? That's great if it's in the cat's interest. If the cat says no, well, you're not going there, right? And also African grays look a lot like pigeons, so they're going to be much more likely to have hawks looking at them and interested in them, because they do look a lot more like pigeons.
Sure.
Whereas the macaw doesn't look anything like a pigeon, and macaw looks more like another predator. So the predator birds are going to be wary of the macaw, whereas they're not going to be wary of the African gray. So there's species characteristics that we can factor into this that decide whether one species is better choice than another. I always tell people large, loud, colorful, and social make the best free flyers. They're easier to find when you misplace them.
Sure. So if you would say like 5 different species that would be very hard to free fly besides African gray, who else?
Eclectus are going to be more challenging because they don't have the male-female pair bonding. They're kind of the sluts of the parrot world, right? She's got her little penthouse in the tree, and a whole bunch of boys are visiting her. And the boys are visiting a whole bunch of females in different nests, and so they don't have that pair bonding. They do bond, they do have a social bonding, but it's not nearly as easy to work with as are birds that have a strong pair bonding.
Why is this important to free flight?
Well, part of what we're going to do with the animal is we want to create motivation, so that the animal is interested in doing what we want him to do, and part of that motivation comes from emotional attachment and emotional frame of mind. And so the bird that is easier to create an emotional relationship with is going to be easier to create an interest in coming back and flying with. So part of our job as animal trainers is to manage the animal's emotions and motivation.
We have to make a bird like us, love us.
Yeah.
And it's more difficult to make an eclectus love you.
Yeah, well, it's doable, but it's not as easy. It's not as simple. And I'm not to say that eclectus can't be flown, because there are people that are flying them. But we've also had people lose them too. And so Indian ringnecks, same kind of a thing. When they're really young, they're very independent. As they get older, they get more social interest. So they're easier to work with as they're older. But the process that I teach people is we have to modify that, and so with an Indian ringneck, they're not a bird I usually encourage as a first-time flyer, because the species characteristics does have a factor. Now, any of your macaws are going to be great, any of your conures are going to be great, cockatoos are great for that, Amazons are great for that, for flying, but they all have their issues as well, too. Cockatoos are hugely destructive, okay? Conures are small, so they're, you take a small green bird, flies into that tree, you're never going to see him again unless he makes some noise. So these are all factors that not every bird, and to answer your question, this is why not every bird is a great candidate for a beginner. Could be good trainer. For a beginner trainer, yes. So somebody who has experience will be better suited for working with those birds, and so yes, many of those birds can be flown, but not recommended for the beginner trainer.
Good. Why is free flight so important to the bird?
Why is free flight important to the bird? Well, there's several reasons. There's mental reasons and there's physical reasons. Physically, an animal who's more physically active, physically fit, is going to be healthier, and there's also the issue that the way their lungs and their entire body has been designed through evolution, right? They have evolved to be very efficient creatures, to use energy very, very efficiently, because they do use a large expenditure of energy to fly. Their lungs, some of the air sacs in their lungs don't even operate unless they're actually flying. So anytime they're sitting on a perch, there's various parts of their lungs that aren't even functioning. So there's parts of their body that in order for them to be healthy, they actually need to have flight in their life. So from a physical fitness standpoint and a physical health standpoint, flight is very, very important to the animal because their entire being is built around being able to fly. It's such a a fundamentally important part of what they evolved to be. The physical fitness-wise and health-wise, flight's important to that. And then there's the mental side of it. The mental stimulation and the mental activity that comes from flying, the mental processes that are involved in flying. The brain, we know with studies with human children, becomes more efficient if it's engaged in activity. Children who participate in active sports do better on their schoolwork because the active sports cause them to move quicker, thus causing their brain to become more efficient at processing information more rapidly.
Sure.
So when you have that more efficient brain, you apply that to schoolwork, they do better. Okay. Well, the birds who live in cages don't have as much to do to keep them active. They don't have anywhere near the amount of stimulation that they're going to encounter during the day. And so a bird who gets to fly better develops his natural abilities mentally. So he thinks faster, he's more efficient, he's going to be smarter, which of course is going to make him mentally healthier. And that is, of course, good for them. And ongoing flight gives them activity in their life and problem-solving skills that they wouldn't have if they just didn't have the ability to fly. There's a whole bunch of reasons where flight actually improves the quality of their life from an entertainment standpoint, from a efficiency of their mind standpoint. There's just a whole bunch of ways that way.
So many people that have parrots at home, they have a hard time when parrots scream a lot or they bite a lot. Do you think flight could diminish this problem or could solve this problem?
Actually, with my own birds, the birds that people give me birds. I do parrot shows for a living. People see me out in the public, they give me birds. And the birds that people give me that grow up non-flighted are much louder and noisier than are my flighted birds that grow up flighted. And the reason for that is that the flighted bird learns what his voice is for, how to communicate. It has a purpose. It's not just about making noise. It's about expressing information so that, we have alarm signals. We have two types of alarm signals. We have the, oh my God, I'm being chased. Oh my God, make lots and lots of noise. But then we have the alarm signal that says, hey, see that up there? There's danger up there, but don't let him know we're here. So we have a silent alarm signal. It's more of a neener kind of a sound, right? It's a quiet alarm signal. And they learn what that voice is for. And by learning that, they use it in a way that's nowhere near as loud as the bird who lives in a cage all the time and doesn't know what his voice is actually for.
Sure. Okay, so last question is... okay. Do you believe that this free flight activity could have some impact on people that don't have birds?
Absolutely.
In the community they live?
Absolutely.
How do you think this impact would be?
Well, there's a whole bunch of ways that this is going to impact the world and the community that we live in, specifically the community that you live in. Since I've been here, I've gotten to watch the reaction of the public to your birds as they're flying around, going from your house here in the city to the park where they spend the day, and watching the reaction of the people that are in the park and the people that are even outside working in the city, like we just had a few minutes ago. A group of city workers stopped what they were doing and watched the birds flying around and communicated with us up on the balcony here in your house to see the birds fly. In this culture in Brazil, where you live, you don't have flying macaws anymore.
No.
And so this is part of your heritage, though. This is part of the heritage of Brazil, and the people here clearly appreciate and miss that. And by being able to see your birds flying like this, that is giving back a part of their heritage that is obviously appreciated by them. Now, on a bigger scale than that, free flight also creates a activity you can do with a pet parrot, making the parrot more valuable to the family, because when you have a bird sitting in a cage all the time that's just an ornament, that's nowhere near as valuable as an animal that you can actually go out and do fun things with. And being able to fly the bird and take him out to different places as part of the family outings and family vacation, this kind of stuff, makes that animal much more valuable to the family.
Sure.
Which in turn makes keeping pet parrots more valuable to people in general. People have kept parrots as pets for thousands of years. They're not going to stop. When you watch the antics of a Amazon talking and singing, and you can't help but have a smile on your face. That
Sure.
is something that people are not ever going to give up voluntarily. I don't care how many laws you make, they're still going to keep parrots. So by doing this as a free flight community like this, one of the things that happens is the people are more engaged in knowledge. They are learning about animal training theory. They're learning about how to do this responsibly. It's impossible to do free flight irresponsible because the bird flies away and doesn't come back. Okay, you either learn how to do this right or you fail. And so by having parrots this way and encouraging this type of ownership, we are simultaneously encouraging people to be more responsible, because
Sure.
it doesn't work unless you are responsible. This is the type of thing.
Better care of the birds.
When you turn that bird loose off your hand, he has a choice about coming back or not. The only time he comes back is because you're doing this right.
Sure.
Right? So learning how to do it right becomes a very important part of this, which means we're increasing the knowledge base, we're increasing the standard for everybody that's doing this, if this becomes the gold standard. A broader than that scope is that if we don't have these animals in captivity, which this helps encourage, if we don't have these animals in captivity in the future, we won't have them because they're disappearing out of the wild. Our efforts to save them in the wild are painfully slow, and in many cases ineffective because it's so slow. We don't get around to actually doing what we need to do before the animals are gone, because we take too much time doing this. And so at this point in time, if it looks like that we will have many, many more species disappear out of the wild before we learn how to do it better at putting them back.
Yeah.
So keeping free-flighted parrots like this is in my mind, helping preserve the species.
So that's going to be my next question. What do you think is the relationship between, I think you already answered, between free flight and conservation? Because I see this keeping parrots in captivity a solution for conservation, or part of the solution, but also making this pet at home as important thing you have in your life, and not just like
people will only try to preserve and conserve what they value, what they care about. Okay, and so if they don't have these animals in their life in some capacity, they won't care about preserving them. So by having these animals in people's homes, we increase the amount of public concern and involvement in conservation. There's nothing I've ever encountered that produces a stronger conservation response from the public than having an animal in their own life. And so there are a number of people out there that hate the pet parrot concept, and I understand partially why that's the case. Of course, I disagree with it because I believe that having these animals in captivity like this is what causes people to care about them. The people who are involved in conservation get to interact with these animals on some level, and of course they care about them. The more they learn about them, the more they care about them. So yes, the people who are doing conservation care about them, but they're not the only ones that need to care about them. The rest of us out here need to care about them also.
Sure. I see this happen to me very, very deep, because before I had the birds here, I am a very natural girl. I work with natural food, I compost the rubbish from my kitchen, I recycle, I try not to use the car when I can go by bike. So I'm very concerned about environmental and the way we are doing things here. I try not to consume plastic things, but I was never ever involved in preserving species in the wild. I was never close to this. I knew it was important. I would sign up some things on the internet to protect animals. But now that I have those birds here at home, I've changed completely my idea about conservation and what I can do and how I can teach people. So I'm now deeply involved with this, and I believe and I see I can make a difference on this issue because I have those birds here. If I had never had them here, I wouldn't be in touch with this. So
and
this
it
wouldn't
goes
be
a step farther than that, because you've learned things that could actually be useful and beneficial to the conservation efforts going on in Brazil.
yes.
Your intimate knowledge of how the animals think and behave is something that biologists actually could benefit from if they would be interested.
Sure.
You know, as you know, I'm writing a book on behavior, and that none of that knowledge that's in that book would have happened if it wasn't for my interactions with the animals.
Sure.
So, you know, we're right now setting up a conservation project in Brazil with blue and gold macaws that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for what I've learned from these interactions with my animals as pets. So years ago, I spoke at Parrots International conference, and while I was, while I was waiting to do my turn to get up on the stage and do my talk, I was listening to other presenters. And one gentleman got up there and talked about, the first thing he said was that how much he disagreed with the pet parrot world. He did not like the concept of pet parrots. It just was adamantly against that. And then he talked about how he had this Amazon that was injured, and he had to keep it in his office for 6 months before he could turn it loose again. And then he made this amazing statement. He said, I learned more about Amazons in that 6 months that I had that Amazon in my office
Sure.
than he did their other 20 years he'd been studying Amazons. Now, wait a minute. What did he just say? He just acknowledged that there's significant value that can come from keeping these animals in captivity
Sure.
if we do it responsibly and
Sure.
do it properly. And
Sure.
part of free flight is about doing it properly, because you can't get away with sloppy and poor training techniques and poor husbandry. If you don't take care of the animal, he's not going to come back.
Sure.
Okay, let's clarify when I just said that you can't do free flight wrong. I want to make sure you understand what I mean. I am not saying that there aren't poor training approaches or unethical practices or abusive practices being used to train parrots. Absolutely there are. What I am saying is that there's technically no wrong way to do free flight. It's kind of like there's no wrong way to ride a bicycle, okay? Since I was a kid, and I can do this, I've done this here in the last few weeks, I can ride a bicycle backwards, sitting on the handlebars, pedaling it, looking towards the back of the bicycle, but riding it in the direction my back is facing. Is that wrong? Well, I'm not falling down. I'm able to go where I want to go. I can even do a wheelie on the bicycle that way. At least I used to be able to. I haven't done that in a while, but probably could with a little practice again. But anyway, that's not wrong. So you see, there's no right and wrong way to ride a bicycle. Likewise, there's no right and wrong way to free fly parrots. Are there ways that are more effective, less abusive, or not abusive, or honoring the animal's spirit and treating the animal with respect compared to other ways? Absolutely, there's better ways in that respect. Some approaches are going to be far superior in that respect. But that doesn't mean the other ways are necessarily wrong. If the bird's not flying away and getting lost, I would say technically that's not wrong. Okay? That's all I mean. I just don't want people thinking that I'm endorsing every approach out there, because I'm not. There are a number of unethical people and very poor training strategies being promoted around the world. There's a lot of internet tricksters out there that are just out to take people's money and don't really care about the people or their animals. And that concerns me, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not endorsing them when I say that there's no wrong way to free fly parrots. That's all I mean. All right, the first thing I want to do when we get started here again is I want to point out something here. Some of the things I'm going to tell you about the way we should train parrots are going to be different than the way you've already done it. And that can cause people to sometimes go, oh my God, I'm doing it all wrong. Okay. We all are on a path. Each one of us is on our own path, okay? And we're at different places on that path. When it comes to free flight, I've been on this path since '93, so I've been on it a while. And you are all starting at different places on your path. And you're going to learn a whole lot of things about things that are probably going to have you go, ooh, I did it wrong last time. Okay, that's fine. That's normal. But even if you go home after this, doing everything that you learned from this class, you're still not going to do it as good as you will the next time. Okay? So the first bird you're going to train is going to be good. The next time you train a bird, it's going to be even better. The next time it's going to get better. Every time it's just going to keep getting better because you're learning more. You have more experience to apply the concepts that you're learning here. We're all on a path, okay? And that path is okay. Your birds, even with what you've already done, are going to learn a lot from this and learn a lot from the new things you're going to apply to them. Will they ever be as good as the bird that I started with? Maybe not. But your next bird will be closer, right? Every time you're going to keep getting better. So please don't take the things I'm going to teach you here to mean that your bird is in trouble or he's not going to be able to be trained. He's going to be able to do better than he is now. He may not get to the same height as some birds, but he will still he's going to make progress. He's going to be improved. He's going to have a better life out of it. Okay, so you're going to go places on that path. Okay, it's okay to be where you're at on the path. It's okay to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. People out there will criticize you for those mistakes, and they will do everything they can. A lot of times people on Facebook or whatever will be brutal to you for making mistakes. It's okay. It's part of how we learn. If you let that bother you, you won't accomplish anything. Right? Move from where you are, get better. That's what we're doing here. So I will be telling you things that are going to point out how you've done it wrong. I'm not meaning to say you're doing it wrong. What I'm trying to do is tell you how to do it as ideally as I know how to tell you to do it. And that gives you a baseline. You can't always do it that way. Even if you want to, I can't always do it as ideally as I want to do it. But if you don't have that knowledge to start with, then you don't know what to strive for. You don't know where you're going to try to do it. So my job here is to teach you how to do this as ideally as I know how. That'll be different than the way you're doing it, yes. But I'm going to teach you the science behind that so you know why. Okay, again, I can teach this to you in 20 minutes. If I did that, somebody else will tell you something different, and then you'll change it. And then it won't work. You'll do something that you didn't know, you changed something important that you didn't know was important, and now it didn't work. So that's why we're going to do this 3 days instead of 20 minutes, so that you have the reasons of why we do it this way, okay? All right.
Now our last question. Because of all this we said, we know it's going to be hard for many people to practice free flight with the birds they have at home now, because either the bird is not the species that's easiest to go, they are surely going to be inexperienced trainers, or they don't have the time and the commitment to do this because it's really time consuming to train a bird to free fly, and maybe that's not going to be the case of you in home. So, but still you might care about your bird, and you might want to make your bird an important being in your house and for your family. Is there a way that we could promote to this bird a very healthy life? And which situation, how would you draw this intermediate situation where the bird would be very cared, and how would be this without free flight?
Okay. I suggest that anybody that has a flighted bird do some free flight training, even if it's just indoor training, because the more training the bird has on recall and more physical fitness and flight skills that the bird develops, when the inevitable get loose from the house
And it
event
happens.
it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. When that does occur, your odds of getting that bird back are dramatically increased
Yes.
because you've done some training beforehand. Many people have pet parrots that they have flighted, that keep them only indoors, and they have a wonderful life with that animal. And the animal has a great life. They get some physical fitness, they get some exercise, they get some stimulation, they get to interact with the owner on their terms, not just the owner's terms. When the bird can fly, he can choose to come to you instead of just you going and getting him, and him waiting for you to come give him some attention. He now gets to have some control over that. That's a form of empowering the animal, getting him some power over
His life?
the things that are going on in his life. It's hugely important. So that's one way of doing this, but if you're going to do that, it's critically important that you do some recall training and work with giving the bird some time sitting in a cage outdoors, getting comfortable being outdoors, because if he does escape and he's freaked out because he went outside, you're going to have a harder time getting him back. So getting him to be calm and relaxed being outdoors is going to be part of
And it's going to be
making it
good
easier.
for sun too.
Sure.
And
Sure. And then the other choice is to consider clipping the bird's wings if you can't do all that. Because, and this is something that many people are adamantly against. I am not so adamantly against it because I believe there are certain situations where it's the better choice for the animal. The animal will have a much more rich and full life if he gets to travel around town with you, go places with you, do things with you that you wouldn't be able to do with him if you let his wings grow out and now he can fly and get lost. So there's a choice that each individual has to make about whether this is the best choice for this animal. Some people will clip their bird's wings for the entire wrong reasons. They will clip the bird's wings as a way of doing nothing to interact with that animal. I'm against that. I'm against clipping a bird's wings just so you can keep him in a cage all the time. That's, in my mind, not a good life for that animal. And so, but there are times when clipping the animal's wings makes it so that animal can go do more fun things with you and have a more rich and full life. If that's the case, I'm in favor of clipping the animal's wings. Assuming that you're not going to do the flight, and maybe the bird's not suitable. Maybe he's got something that makes him never going to be a good candidate.
yeah, maybe he's a rescue bird who have never
Right.
flight. Like we have a friend that the bird doesn't even stretch his wings properly, so he will never be able to fly. In this case, he doesn't
You don't need to clip
yeah.
his wings. But some birds are they're you know, you take a wild-caught bird that has been with people for some time, really not suitable to go live back in the wild, but at the same time you're never going to get him tame and friendly or reliable to fly outside. That bird might be a better choice to clip his wings and have a happier life. There's nobody out there on the planet at this point that you can point to that has been a stronger supporter of free flight than Chris Biro. I've been supporting this from back long before it was popular, back before nobody else was doing this. But that doesn't mean that I'm anti-clipping. I'd like to see people not clip and do it properly, do it responsibly.
Sure.
But I also would like to see people clip responsibly if they're going to clip. So in other words, I'm for whatever choice is going to give that animal the best quality of life. And sometimes clipping is that better choice. Not always, and I'm not going to say even it's common, but there are situations where that is the better choice. So in my mind, we have to look at what gives that animal the best quality of life.
Sure.
Keeps them safe, but there's a balance between safety and quality of life. There's a balance between quantity of life and quality of life.
Yeah,
and
we've talked about that.
that has to be factored in. You know, some people will value the quantity of life over the quality of life. Some people value the quality over quantity. And so that's a choice that each person gets to make. I can't make that choice for them. And they shouldn't be trying to make that choice for me either. Okay? That would be inappropriate. Yet a lot of people try to make that choice for us and tell us,
Yes.
you know, laws or whatever tell us we don't have that choice, and I disagree with that. But anyway, that's the way I evaluate that question of clipping or flying. That's a very personal question for each person. Each person has the ability to make a informed and responsible decision, and I think that's something we should encourage people to make. And we should, instead of trying to take away their choices, we need to empower them to make quality choices and help give them the information to make an informed, good decision. That's my take on it.
Sure. So thank you very much, Chris, for being here, for coming to Brazil.
And thank you for bringing me to Brazil.
It was a pleasure.
Mine too.
Big dream since the beginning, so now it came true.
I think it was very successful.
Yes.
The seminar was very successful.
Yes.
All the feedback that we went through has been glowing.
Sure, sure.
Excellent is kind of the word of the
yeah, we had in the survey.
in the survey. That seems to be the most common term used in the survey. So that's
Yes,
good. That's always
yes.
happy to get that kind
It's
of.
really good. It's really good. I think all people came, they loved it, and they're going to make very good use of it. Even those that have species that are not favorable for free flight, they've been training at least a recall to get to know if their birds are going to free fly or not, or if their birds are going to fly inside. So they're all being very responsible and using the knowledge to make their birds' life much better.
That's the whole point. And I've greatly enjoyed getting to spend 3 weeks in Brazil. I've fallen in love with Brazil, no question about that.
Good.
It's a beautiful country. The people have been wonderful. I love the fruit, of course.
So do the birds.
So, some of the places that we went and visited after the seminar, the falls, and going visiting the Lears Macaw. What an incredible experience both of those were.
We've arrived at Petrolina. We've gone to the rental car company. We have now come back to the airport. Who are we picking up now?
No one. We're just having to get to know the area here before we go to Canudos. 3-hour drive.
So you want to get a little warm up driving around the airport?
Warm up, yes, so
okay.
the car won't.
And when we come back, we'll be familiar with where. Boom.
Yes, sure.
It's like a Disney ride.
They're teaching the baby bird to fly.
One of the things I've learned about Brazilians is that they are very concerned about their hats. They have signs all over the highways here warning you about bumps in the road that will crush your hat if you hit them too fast as you bounce your head on the ceiling of your car. See, here's one right here. Very concerned about their hats.
Those falls were just incredible to see that many falls. The only thing I know of in the States that's similar to that's Niagara Falls, but it's even that's different. But it's a once in a lifetime kind of experience to go see that. So it's been a real, really a fun trip to be made.
Good, I'm glad you liked it. Okay, guys, so I hope you liked it, and subscribe, and we see you next video. Bye.